Welcome back to Queen's Radio. Today I'm joined by the amazing writer and producer, Amanda Verlaque. How are you?
Very well. I'm very excited to be here now.
So, what inspired you to become a writer and producer?
Well, I also wanted to write from when I was a youngster, but I kind of didn't go down that route. You know, you kind of don't know the world. And as for producing, when I was growing up, I didn't know such a thing as a producer existed. It was only when I finished at Queen's with my degree in economic and social history and women's studies that I ended up freelancing for the Irish News as a journalist and writing arts and entertainment pieces that I started to get into the writing. And it was through that that I started to work for the BBC Drama Department. And back then they had a team of writers. I'm sorry, not a team of writers. Of course they've got writers. They had a team of readers, script readers. They don't do that anymore. But it used to be that organisations like the BBC read unsolicited manuscripts that were just sent in by anyone. They don't do that anymore. Stuff usually does come through an agent. But anyway, back then they had a team of readers, and I was one of the readers. And you read the script, and then you write a report on it. So you get to see you develop the skills to see what's good, bad, and indifferent in a story, and you also watch loads of TV, and you clock, you know, when you're engaged in a story, and you clock who's written the story, and then probably who produced it as well. So I kind of got in that way, and then I became a script editor for the department where you work with the writer to help them develop their story. And you're almost like the conduit between the writer and the producer, the executive producer. So producers will want a certain thing, and the writer may not want to do that, but you have to ensure that the writer does that in order for the piece to be greenlit, but also that the writer maintains ownership of their work. So all the while I was doing that, I was thinking, I want to do this. And I would be a confident person as a rule, but I lacked the confidence to say I want to do this. But when I left BBC Drama here, I moved to Glasgow, to BBC Glasgow, and I worked as a storyliner on a cracking soap called River City. And if you can work on a soap, you can work on anything because you are generating storylines and creating characters every single day. There would be you'd be in a room with a couple of other storyliners, doors locked, so that because you would have cast walking about, you can't let them in because on the board, boards right around the wall, all the storylines for a particular page. So you might be writing the next storyline, 8 episodes that will be filmed in a couple of months. We can go into a whole big thing about how you work on soap. So you don't want an actor.
Spoilers for everybody.
No, you don't want an actor walking in and they can see in the storyline it's going to be, someone gets, falls off a cliff. So storyline is very, very intense. And again, I did that. So creating characters, creating stories, and all the time. And then once you create the storyline, it's passed on to the writer. But I always wanted to do that and just again didn't have the confidence to say that. And then an opportunity came up for producing role as a trainee a year long. I mean, things like that now are like hen's teeth. So we all went for it, and I was lucky. I got to train on the job for an entire year as a producer and make all my mistakes as a trainee producer before I flew solo, and that stood me in good stead. Again, if you can work on something so fast moving, once the bus starts moving, it does not stop. Everything has to happen at a certain time. Anyway, that's why I got into producing. Still always wanted to write. Got really, really tired of 70-hour weeks, and I stopped doing that. I just thought that I want to do something else. Tried a few other things in the creative industries, and then took the head staggers a few years ago and said, I have always wanted to write. If I don't do it, I'm never going to do it. And I didn't want to be regretful. So I moved back to Belfast about 6 or 7 years ago, and I cut my cloth accordingly so that I could sit and write every day. I do, once the blue moon, still produce or exec produce, but I'm not to the same level. But I sit and I write every day. Or I can say, I look out that window for a while, and then I look out that window for a while. But I'm still percolating away. And the reason why I chose theatre is because I've always loved it. It was my first taste of the immediacy of it when I was very, very young. I don't know what age I was. And I love that there's nowhere to hide in the theatre. In TV and film, you have whistles and bells, and you have smoke and mirrors, and you can get yourself out of the hole. Whereas if you're writing from theatre, you rent yourself into the corner and you have to write yourself out of it. There's nowhere to go. You're one stage. I don't know if that answered your question. You probably expected it to be, but I'm a writer, so why say 10 words that you can say in 100? Do you think so?
Is there any specific teacher or mentor that you had growing up or in university or in your life that inspired or influenced you and what you wanted to do?
I've been inspired by lots of women in my life, and yes, and some men as well, but not to write. I suppose my dad took me to the library every week when I was a child and introduced me to the joy of books, and it was something that I continued to do long after I had grown up and moved to Belfast. So I've always loved books, and I'll always thank him for that. My mum loved history programs, and we've talked about history, so I loved it. That's why I studied history. There's been a number of women at real watershed moments in my life who have pushed me to do things that I thought I couldn't do myself. In terms of writing, I've just loved people like Victoria Wood. I mean, I don't know if you're familiar with her work. She had a show. She came on the scene a long time ago, probably before your parents were born. But and I've always admired her and her ability to write amazing characters that were down to earth. She had her own shows, but she also quite often wrote the best characters for the other people in the show and not herself. So people like that would have inspired me.
And what inspired this play specifically?
It's based on a true story. So when I was at university, when I was a queen back in the early 90s, I fell in love and I fell for this woman. And it's when I think about it, I mean, there's a lot of joy in this play because I thought, right, I'm in the closet in my hometown, Flurgan, and it was a different world back then. You really did have to stick to the shadows because if you were out, it wouldn't have been pleasant. I know the world has changed now, but I thought, right, okay, well, I'm in Belfast now. It's great. I'm in Queensway. Hey, it's so
In the big
liberal.
city.
Absolutely. And I was starting to come out and I fell for someone. And it was, yay, hearts and flowers. And she had an ex, and the ex appeared to be very right on. Thought this was great. There was something about him that just didn't chime. And I didn't, and it was probably a certain amount of naivete, but also I did listen to my gut. My gut was telling me he's too good to be true. And so that's what happens. He turned something that was really, really nice into something very, very dark and, and dangerous in the terms of a death threat. And this was at a time when, if you're at university now, you can go and speak to someone.
Yeah, there's millions of quizzers.
Absolutely. There wasn't anybody like that when I was there, and there wasn't the Rainbow Project. So even now, if you don't want to go to the PSNI, you can still register an attack or any kind of harassment with the Rainbow Project or Here and I, and then we'll pass it on so that it's recorded, so that we know that it's not all hearts and flowers. The world we live in is still dangerous. So that didn't exist in the 90s. So my world was getting increasingly smaller because this guy had said he was going to kill me, and he didn't have to say to me about it. He thought he was doing me a favour, sure, don't worry, you won't know when it is. I mean, the fella wasn't right.
Yeah.
And so my world got smaller and smaller because I had only told a couple of people. I had nowhere to go with the information. My family, I did a great disservice because I should have told them straight away, because when I did tell them eventually, they were absolutely grand. I'm sure, we knew that. But I didn't tell them at the time. I was afraid to, and that's the world we lived in. So, I felt really, really stuck. Yeah, and the word, it's great now if you've got any kind of, anything at all you want to talk about now about your sexuality, whatever, you've got people to go to, which is brilliant.
Yeah, we have a specific LGBTQ plus officer in our university now that we can just go and chat to.
Yeah.
So we are now being joined by Rhiann Jeffrey, the director of the play. So hello, how are you?
Hello, thank you for having me.
So with such a personal play, especially to you, Amanda, how have you guys taken directing and writing? What was the hardest part of it for you guys?
I think I wouldn't necessarily say it's the hardest part, but the part of the whole thing that I was more sensitive about was that this is actually a true story and has happened to Amanda in the past. And I do work a lot with new writing, but it's never usually, autobiographical. So I think I just wanted to make sure that whatever I did with the production with the performer was true and authentic to the experience that you had. But Amanda and I have worked together now for a few years, and I absolutely love working with her. I think she's fantastic. Hey, you later.
I was waiting for the.
No, I think you're just a really, you know what you want, and I know what I want, and we're both really strong females, and sometimes that's a recipe for disaster, but it just works. And I think we have very similar visions, and like at the end of the day, the most important thing for me about data is storytelling and authenticity and truth, and because this piece is so rooted in that, it just works, and I think we work really well together. You know.
You know what I think Rhiann brings elevates what I've written. It lives on a page. You can read it and say, as people who go, I read that was really really good. I said, yeah, but you need to see what Rhiann has done with it with the actress. So Rhiann will work with Nikki to take it to another level, so that it becomes a living, breathing thing, and you're in the room. You are there on the journey of getting out of one town, getting into the big city, the joy of falling for someone, and then it gets darker and it goes from joy and intimacy to intimacy that transitions into a claustrophobia.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, as I said, things only exist on the page, and you need someone like Rhiann, who, as I say, I've worked with before. Absolutely adore her work. I love watching her in rehearsals. I'll never ever be a director. I don't want to be one, but I love watching what she does, because she'll just say something and Nikki will do something different. And we've worked before on a play called Distortion that the Mac filmed, and there was several people on stage, and it was very very fast paced and it was very political, and she would say something and try it this way, and I'm going, right, that's good. I have to remember to change that. So I'm very lucky.
As mine. Yeah, I think we all feel very privileged to be able
Yeah.
to tell the story together.
I'm the dream team got going.
That's it. Hashtag dream team.
Do you think activism is something that other writers, directors, and producers should be incorporating in their plays?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a place for it. I think if everyone did it, it would be oversaturated in political theatre and activist theatre. But I think absolutely. But again, when we go back to truth, like you can write this story because it happened to you, and then it comes from a place of truth, and then the activism is layered into that rather than a writer sitting down. I'm going to write an activist play, and it coming from that place is less organic, I think. So it depends, I guess, what the intention is. But yeah, 100%, and especially in this country.
Yeah. I mean, you also need to be careful that you don't cross a line into preachy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because people will just turn them off. It's basically, I'm doing a thing, the Imagine Festival on the 19th of March, about art as activism and storytelling as a vehicle for change. So it's basically, if you've got a true story to tell, how do you tell it in a way that it connects with someone, that they will say, I didn't know that, or I thought I knew that, but I never thought of it that way. And it's been used very, very successfully in campaigns, for example, in Repeal the Eighth South, to overturn the abortion laws, and also for the marriage equality campaign. People went out and talked to people on the doorsteps and told them their story. This is my story. This is what happened to me, and both those laws were overturned. So there's power in it without it being preachy. And the thing is, people can turn off. They want to be, you want to be entertained, but at the same time you come away going.
Is there any specific message that you want your audience to take away from this performance?
Yeah, listen to your gut. When it tells you something, listen to your gut. And also, we live in a much more liberal world now. You can't take it for granted. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it's just I think visibility is so important. So I would encourage all audience members to come and see this, because I think each of them can relate to it in a separate way. Like Amanda was saying earlier, like there's so much joy and love in it, and falling in love with somebody for the first time is so liberating, so exciting, and you really, really feel that in the storytelling, as well as the more violent and brutal aspect of it. But it's a true story and it's relatable in so many ways. So I think, the audience are in for a treat, and we have a new performer, Nikki Horley, who is absolutely phenomenal. And I'm so excited to work with her. She's, known for these big character comedy roles, but she has this magical authenticity where you can be sat in an auditorium with 200 people and you feel that she is directly looking and speaking to you. And I think that is a quality that's really for this. So yeah, come and see it.
Well, I'm so excited to come and see it. So thank you so much for having us down to talk to you guys today.
Very happy.
So
Thank you.